All right, back with another ESPN Playoff Machine video. I plan on doing this every Monday from here to the rest of the season. I made one last week if you're interested in that. If you're interested in how this works, so there's a thing called the ESPN Playoff Machine. You can, if you want to play along at home, search that, and you can. But it basically means you predict who you think is going to win every single game, and that it spits out who would make the playoffs in that scenario. There's obviously flaws with it, just in the sense of, not every single game that I predict is going to come true, obviously. But these are all of my predictions. I kind of ran out of room, so one of them is sideways on the right of the screen. So that's where week 16 is. I'm not going to go through each one, obviously. If you're interested in why a certain team got a certain place, you can come back to here. But yeah, let's just get into the rankings. So starting off with the NFC, we did the AFC first last time, so I might as well do the NFC here. And I do have the Eagles as the 1 seed. Again, it's one of those things where if you're the best team in your conference, I am probably going to predict you to be the best team, to win out, right? That obviously makes sense. That's how this thing works. But doesn't mean they're going to win out. They have a tough first, next couple of weeks where they play Dallas and San Francisco. It's San Francisco next week, Dallas the week after. If they lose both of those games, San Francisco would get the 2 seed, would get the 1 seed. The Eagles would still win the division in that scenario, according to this. But if Dallas won another game, then maybe they would have a chance to get it. Actually, it would still take more than that, even if I have Dallas losing to Miami. Even if they beat Miami, it would take more than just that. So, seems, Philadelphia has a good chance of winning the division at this point. However, there is still a scenario where San Francisco can take the 1 seed. The 3 seed is the Lions, and there's a chance that they could overtake, but probably not. They're probably going to be locked into that 3 seed, I would assume. Again, there is potential. However, they would just need a lot to happen. So who knows? We'll see how it goes. Keep an eye on it, but probably not going to happen. Lions probably going to end up with the 3 seed, I would assume. And then Atlanta, I do have going 10-7. I don't think they'll go 10-7 because, if you're favored to win 5 games down the stretch, I don't think they're a good enough team to win those 5 games. There's obviously 6 games left, but they're a good enough team to win enough of them. I do still think that they're going to be the team in the NFC South, probably getting the 4 seed to probably get blown out by Dallas, who I think is almost certainly going to get the 5 seed. The 6 and 7 seeds are interesting as well, though. I have the Packers and the Vikings getting into the playoffs, but let's maybe go to the whole conference to kind of talk about why. So this is the whole conference. First, NFC East, nothing to talk about there. We already talked about Philadelphia and Dallas. The NFC West, so it's really, in my opinion, there's 3 teams fighting for that 7 seed in the NFC at this point. It is the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Minnesota Vikings, all of whom I have going 9-8 right here. So anyone could potentially get in. In that scenario, it would be the Minnesota Vikings who get in, so that's definitely an opportunity. Seattle just has such a tough schedule, but if they can pull off one of those upsets, again, you just win one more game I have you losing, then they would be the 7 seed. And the Rams also are a team that very much has a chance here. Now, again, they might have to win a tough matchup. I had them going 4-2 down the stretch. The 2 losses are to the Ravens and the 49ers. But here's an interesting aspect is they played the 49ers the last game of the season. And if the 49ers are resting their starters, if their playoff spots are already locked up, maybe the Rams can pull off that win. And they even played the 49ers tough, when they played earlier in the year. If they can go 5-1 down the stretch, it is possible. It is a bit of a tall task, though. Gun to my head, who gets it? I think probably, I don't know. I could see either one, to be honest. I think I would lean Minnesota, but I could see it going, any one of those 3 ways. And also Tampa Bay and New Orleans. I have Atlanta beating both Tampa Bay and New Orleans. They play again this season, but obviously that's not a guarantee that that's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, there is potential for any of those teams ending up getting in. In fact, if Atlanta loses both of those games, all 3 would be 8-9, and Tampa Bay would actually be the team that would get in that scenario, interestingly enough. But for now, I have Atlanta as the 4 seed. And also, just for fun, I did check the Panthers can still win the division, and it seems more possible than it should be for a team that only has 1 win through 12 weeks of the season. But regardless, let's move over to the AFC now. As you see, the Chiefs are still the 1 seed. They have a 1-game lead over 3 teams that I have all going a combined 13-4. Is worth mentioning, though, if the Chiefs drop another one of those games and it's a 4-way tie, they still would be the 1 seed in that scenario. Now, it is worth mentioning, though, there is, other ways that it could, go differently, right? Like, for example, the Jaguars play the Ravens. I have that as a loss. If, let's say, the Chiefs lose to the Bills and then the Jaguars are able to beat the Ravens, Jacksonville would actually get the 1 seed. So, Jacksonville actually has maybe the better chance out of any of these teams that aren't the Chiefs to get it. I still think the Chiefs are the team that ends up as the 1 seed, though. Ravens, Jaguars, and Dolphins all seem like they're going to fight it out for the 2, 3, and 4 seeds at this point. The playoff seeding is interesting to me. So for the Texans, I had them going 12-5. Now, it's one of those things, though, where it's like, 6 games left on the schedule. I think I would probably put them favored for all 6, but, are you going to go 6-0? That is difficult to do. But there is some leeway here. They can lose a game and they'd be fine. In fact, given the current setup, even though, the Broncos are 10-7, and there's other teams that have 10-7, we'll get to that. Even if the Texans dropped multiple games, they would still have the tiebreaker if everything else stayed the same, and they would still be in the playoffs. So, feels comfortable, 5-1 kind of comfortably gets them in, which is difficult, but against their schedule, it's less difficult. The Colts, I amazingly do have here as the, 6th seed. Now, they're close, though, and it's going to, in many ways, come down to that Steelers game coming up in a couple of weeks, I think. If the Steelers win, that would actually take the Colts out and bump the Steelers in to the 6th seed, and actually, due to tiebreakers, it would also bump Denver out and put Cleveland in. So, let's get to the whole conference to talk about the sort of fringe wildcard teams, because once again, I have 3 teams tied for the 7th spot. This is the whole conference. You see, again, AFC East, we talked about most of those teams. Buffalo's the one we have to mention, where I still have them going 8-9. It's just, their schedule is brutal. Like, even, you think, okay, 6-6, but they're playing good football right now. The issue isn't, can a 6-6 team find a way in? It's, they might have to realistically win all 5 of these games, and it's hard to find 5 wins on the schedule. Also worth mentioning, if they are able to get to 10 wins, if they beat Dallas and if they beat Kansas City and go 4-1 in this brutal stretch, the way I have everything set up, they still wouldn't make the playoffs in that spot. They would have to win out according to this, which means they would have to beat Miami week 18 as well, along with beating Kansas City, not next week, they have a bye, but the week after, and then, beating Dallas. It just feels like it might be too much to overcome. They lost too many games they could have won. Losing to Philadelphia was brutal. Like they had at least a little bit of leeway if they won that one. Now it's looking rough. Again, we talked about Denver a little bit. It's Denver, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. Those are 3 teams that currently I have fighting out the 7th seed, but I still think the Colts are, I think it's all those teams fighting it out for 3 playoff spots, and even Houston isn't a guaranteed lock, because like I said, yes, they're going to be favored in a lot of games, but you still have to win those games. So all those teams are going to be fighting it out. And there is some intrigue, again, like I said with the Steelers. I think if they can beat the Colts, in a couple of weeks, that would really go a long way. That's week 15, so it's coming up soon. We're 3 weeks away. Winning that one could be huge. Both the Browns and the Steelers just have really easy schedules. Like I have the Steelers winning 3 more games, and it's because they played the Arizona Cardinals, the New England Patriots, and the Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals. Now, you have to win those games, right? You still have to find a way to make it happen, but I think they will. They play the Colts, Seahawks, and Ravens. I think those are probably losses. And even the Browns, with as bad as they looked, they played the Rams, they played the Jacksonville Jaguars, they played the Texans. You're probably looking at that and saying, yeah, those are probably 3 losses. But then they play the Bears, the Jets, and the Joe Burrow-less Bengals. Like, those are 3 games they're going to be favored for, even with their disaster at quarterback play right now. That would be 10-7. Still wouldn't get them in, though, because Denver would have the tiebreaker in that scenario. If Denver were to drop a game in that spot, then it would be Cleveland getting the 7th seed over Pittsburgh. Cleveland would get the 7th seed in that spot, interestingly enough. So, but again, like I said, if Pittsburgh can find a way to, win in a couple weeks against Indianapolis, then it would be them and Cleveland making the playoffs, which it would be quite something. But yeah, that's my playoff, not really playoff predictions, right? But that's the Playoff Machine video and, where things are at. Always give us an idea, I feel like, of how close certain teams are and which games teams might have to win. What's your easiest pathway to getting into the playoffs right here? So, biggest games next week to talk about, Denver and Houston. It matters a lot because if Houston can win that, they can actually jump up to the 5 seed potentially, if those things change. So that one's worth keeping an eye on. Obviously every team that's projected to win has to find a way to win. If Seattle can beat Dallas next week, then that would be enough to jump them up to the 7 seed. So that's an important one to keep an eye on. And then San Francisco, Philadelphia, where even if everything else holds and the Niners win, I still have the Eagles as the 1 seed, but it becomes a lot more possible for the Niners to get the 1 seed. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all of that. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.